Welcome to Dope Synergies podcast. This is episode, well, it would have been 3, but it's now 2 because we'll get into details why. But I am your host, Stephanie Gutierrez, and I'm here with my life partner.
Yes, Gladia Castro.
And we're here to talk about all things relationships, all things LGBTQ.
I can't with you. I know I'm giving you a pass because you're still
I'm new, which is something that we're going to be talking about today.
But it's the LGBTQ plus.
Thank you. Plus, can't forget that. We're going to be talking about, like I said, all things relationship. We had left off on our second episode. It was actually a very deep one where we were very vulnerable, but wasn't recorded, or I don't know what happened there. But here we are, re-recording episode 2, which is part of the journey and part of the process when recording podcast. So I'll hand it off to you, and maybe you can kick off the conversation for today.
Yeah, I think when we were literally waiting. It's been over a month, because I think when we first started out, I think the intro podcast was like getting to know us, the direction of the podcast and why we created it. And then the second one, we booked 2 podcast episodes in under one, trying to do it at a studio, like trying to be bougie, or I mean, it wouldn't be bougie, but like, we're like, okay, we don't want to do it on the StreamYard. We want to be different this time. And it just didn't work out. They sent us the first episode, and then the second, crickets. And we've had to be really persistent and no reply. And what it at the end of the day, it happened for a reason, but it's what made it difficult is we were so vulnerable in that episode, like teary-eyed, like emotional. But nevertheless, we're here. And when we were discussing how we wanted to, like, where we wanted to leave off at and how we wanted to extend the rest of our episodes, it was like, well, why don't we talk about how we met? Because it's now surpassed over a year since we officially met. Mm-hmm. And so much has happened in that year. So I figured we're not going to give you the whole story in one episode. We're going to kind of give you a little, like a telenovela, like, leave you at the cliff, like, oh, what's going to happen next? Throughout our 1 year of knowing each other. And not just, it's funny because a lot of people look at us and see us on social media and they're like, oh, you guys are the perfect couple, this and that. But we've definitely dealt with like the challenges and like getting to know each other. And it's one thing to be together as a couple, but we also have a 10-year-old too. And so the dynamic of 3 and what that's like, and moving in together and moving across the country. So it's a lot of things to dissect. But in today's episode, we're going to talk about how we met, maybe the first 3 months of our relationship journey, mm-hmm. and where that stands. And I think it's also powerful because you're very spiritual, and I wasn't necessarily when we first met, but here I am now. I feel like I've kind of become like Miss Spiritual, sending you Abraham Hicks links and
I know.
videos.
I was like, look at you. It's rubbing off on her.
It is.
But I think the highlight of this episode or this series, right, because we're trying to make it to where, like she said, you're kind of hung on for the next one and waiting and excited for the next episode, because it really is a story and a journey for both of us. I didn't know I was gay, and we're going to talk about that story. But before we do that, I think it'd be dope to share how to manifest your partner. So one of the things, I was single for over 6 years since I got divorced, with Alex's dad years ago. So I spent a lot of time on my own by myself. And really, that's where you truly get to know yourself and your dark thoughts. And you heal. I've been able to, heal a lot of my traumas in that time alone. But for a long time, I was single for that long because I did it. I was like doing the best in every other aspect of my life, right? And my finances and my spiritual journey and, the 7 equities of life, which is what they call it. It's like a certain area of your life. But the relationships one, I always closed it off. It was like, I don't
But you talked to people.
I did,
but never
but
got serious.
I never, because I would always ghost people. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate.
Broke a lot of people's hearts.
And probably did. And, hurt people. So I'll say that was me at the time. But I thought I had my shit together in every other aspect. And I was like, I don't need a relationship as long as I have a good relationship with myself. But I was really just closing off the idea of having a partner and having somebody to share my life with because of my past experience. And so until it clicked that it was like 6 years going on 7 years by myself, I was like, let me really have a talk with myself and see, is it because I don't want a relationship or I genuinely do want to share life with somebody, but I haven't been intentional or I haven't even shifted my energy towards it. So last year in 2023, before meeting her, I think like 4 or 5 months before that, it was January, I remember, I wrote down my ideal person. I wasn't specific with gender, and that's because I didn't know that I was gay. So in my mind, it was going to be a guy, right, who had all these characteristics.
You gotta be specific.
I know, and now we're learning, right, because we're good manifestors together, and that's what happens when you align yourself with a partner that really is there to support. I wrote down the list of things that I would want in that person, and the same way you write a business plan, you write your personal goals, your fitness goals, your like eating habit goals, whatever goals you have, it's the same with the person that you're going to spend your time with for the rest of your life, or you're planning to at least, right? So I was like, well, in that area, I'm not writing anything down, and I didn't believe that writing it down would actually work. So until I put pen to paper and really got creative with who was this ideal person that I wanted, then I started believing it. So I wrote it down, left the journal. I think it was a 5-minute gratitude journal that I was reading at the time that helped me develop that and actually do it and write it down. Once that happened, fast forward a couple months, but before we get to that, I think you were experiencing the same thing, right?
Right. Except totally different. I
don't know how that happened
for 6 years.
Yeah.
Total opposite, actually. I was married. It was I think 2023 would have been my 9th year married. And by the start of 2023, I just separated. I was living on my own and really digging into what a new life is going to be. I was like, okay, I'm going to be single for, that I'm going to focus on myself and building myself. And I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I'm just going to focus on me. And over the span of the 9 years or 8.5 years, however long I was married, there were some struggles because I, started an entrepreneurship journey and I didn't know what to expect. At first, I thought it'd be kind of a side hustle, but then I learned like, wow, like I saw the power of just focusing on you and also the passion in like real estate as well.
And how it's not part-time. Like you got to go all in.
You have to go all in. Mm-hmm. You have to really commit yourself. But like, how do you split that? And I think a lot of couples, married couples, deal with that. We've even, talked to a lot of married couples too. But how do you split your time? How do you ensure you're on the same page? And me and my ex-partner were not on the same page. We never really sat down and had that talk. It was very reactionary. But once I make up my mind, it's set. And I'm that type of person. I love a project. Like I love digging myself in and and going all in. And I think it was just over the years of that back and forth. And I mean, nobody's perfect, right? There's both sides to everything. But I think in my mind, I was just ready to just venture out. So all this happened 2023. I had read a book by Elena Cardone. It's something like Kingdom, where she talks about how she met Grant Cardone and you can say what you want about him, but I mean, whatever. They've been able to create, their empire, right? But I listened to this book and she talks about how she wrote down the qualities and the characteristics she would want in a partner. And I remember, and I listened to this while I was married. And I remember even thinking, man, damn, I should have done that. And that also made me think like, wow, am I really with the right person? And so when you start having these thoughts when you're married, I feel like that affects it, right, in some ways. And if you don't have those transparent conversations, and I'm the type that didn't have that. So fast forward, I'm separated, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna write down my list. I had a notebook that I would use to like write my gratitude or just my thoughts, and I just took the back of the journal and I just wrote down the qualities I would want in someone, and maybe
That was a picture of me.
it was basically Steph. I'm not even a good drawer, but she came out of that.
Yeah, no, I think what was creepy is, and not creepy, it's like if you're intentional and what we're realizing now, you know, you'll get to know us throughout these series and the journey. We realize like we're really good at manifesting. We have to just be super clear about what we're creating together. We've lacked that clarity for a couple times, but we're getting better every time when we notice it. But is it really creepy? No, I don't think so, because we were very intentional about, like, we both wrote down the qualities and characteristics that we were looking for in each other. And fast forward to, what was it, like April of
I remember April 14th.
Yeah, April 14th of last year, basically.
Well, let's just backtrack because so we're part of Women in Real Estate group, Wire. Shout out to Wire. And I've been wanting to go to their events. I think you've been a speaker at their events and stuff, and they had in Vegas, and I was living in LA. I was like, cool.
And I was in Long Beach at the time.
I was like, I'm single. I'm just gonna go all out. It's Vegas. Like, this is my chance. I was finally feeling myself. I was like feeling like really, really good. Like I've been reading. I've been like self-development. You were invited last minute.
I was invited last minute.
You weren't even gonna come.
No. And I was, even though I had wrote down my ideal person back in January, I believed it, but part of me was like, you know, like just put it in the back burner. You forget about it. So in my mind, I was just like, this is going to take another year or more. I have to probably do more inner work and become that person that I'd want to date. Right. So in my mind, I was far away from that. So then, you know, when Kaylani asked me to go speak at this event, this golf tournament, I was somewhere else. I can't remember where, but I remember just texting her and saying, yeah, I'll go. And, you know, I called one of my other friends and I was like, let's go to Vegas. And it was an all women's investor golf tournament, right? So in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to go do business, go speak, and then come back the next day or stay for a day or two. And so that we left it at that. And then I show up to the event and Kaylani's like, oh, go sit over there on that table. They had different tables of groups of women, right?
Some fellas were there too.
There was a couple men, yeah. Supporters. And then now there's a lot of supporters, but the main theme was women, right? Yeah. So I was not going to this event at all with the intention of me finding my life partner, because what happens next, and maybe you can pick it up from here because you were sitting at the table already.
Well, and mind you, my business partner Tim, shout out to Tim, he was supposed to go through with me. We're like, yeah, let's do this together. We've been trying to go to a Wire event, and last minute, again, he was unable to. He had to take care of some stuff. So I was like, dang, okay, all right. Yeah, because it's one thing when you're going but with like somebody you know, and then you know, for me, I'm a huge introvert, so it was a good. I'm like, okay, I'm being challenged. You know, this is good. So fast forward to that moment, and I think I've told you this before. Is pretty sure I followed you before we met because what you had done some interviews with Kaylani through Wire podcast. They'll share like some videos you're doing. And I remember, because this is like way before we met, I was probably still married. I was like, dang, she's cute. I remember thinking that, but nothing of it. Like I would think like, oh, she's pretty. And like what she's talking about is really cool in Spanish. So I was like, follow. So I think you looked familiar because I'm very good with faces, but not names. So I was like, dang, she looks really familiar when I saw you walk in and sit down. But you had already seen me before I think you sat down.
Like as soon as I sat down, yeah. I think when I got closer to the table, it was maybe 4 of you guys in like one of those big round tables. And I saw her and I felt the same thing. I felt like our energies just connected from the get-go before she even introduced herself. And I felt like I knew her from a long, long time. And then there was an attraction to it too. So then, you know, everybody gets there. We start the event and everybody starts introducing themselves. And here's where I think a lot of women who have kids can relate, so I'd been single for so long. When I introduced myself, I felt this connection with her and attraction. And it was my turn to introduce myself before we got to her, right? So in my mind, I was like, should I share that I have a kid? I don't want her to think that I'm married or like not available. Like I was already 2, 3 steps ahead in my head.
You're like, I'm already married.
But I was like, no, like you got to stay true to yourself. So you are, a single parent and you like XYZ and you do XYZ. So I just pretty much introduce myself, and then the table goes around and it gets to her, and everything she's saying, like I align with, right? She has a podcast. She does real estate. She does this and that. And not to mention we were at a real estate event. So, it's like the perfect place now that I think about it to find somebody that you would align with, right? Because it was the perfect environment that I think attracted us. It wasn't non-intentional. It wasn't a coincidence. It was really like divine alignment, I think, between us. And then from there, we were just finding excuses to hang out the entire trip. I'm talking about all day that day. Later that night, we go out to the strip. We have dinner, everything. Like we were just together.
Through the details. Can we also talk about how at the event, like how we gravitate towards each other?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I remember stepping outside to go. I think Brittany was out, and I was like, "Oh, let me go say hi to her." And somehow you snuck your way in and followed me like a creep. But I remember thinking, like, "Oh, she's following me." I sensed that, but
wait. Also, my mind. You got to think about this. Never. Maybe I found women attractive, but never to the extent where I was just like in my head already. Like hunter. We were. Yeah, and I was the one making all the moves. Let's just put it out there.
I was not prepared.
So I was like, who am I right now? What am I feeling? And why is this connection so strong? And I saw myself like with her, traveling, like doing business together, working together, dating. Like it was just, I had never been so sure. And I had been by myself for 6 years. So like that, I knew how sure I was, because for me to feel that, after meeting people for over 6 years, nobody had ever made me feel that comfortable, that safe, or I don't know, like it was just that energy attraction that I don't think people can really explain. They have to like
feel it or be.
It's a true feeling of connection where you really do see yourself with this person. And I was so confident in it that I was just like going for it. So I kept looking for her, and as she said, like using any little excuse to hang out.
But I was the same way too. I was very low key, maybe not so low key, but you were definitely a lot more. I wouldn't even say aggressive, but like you were a lot more persistent. Yes. Let's just say that. But any chance we'd get, like if we were golfing, I'd go where you were, or if there was a chance to sit next to each other, I'd put my things next to yours. And then even us sparking a conversation, like sitting next to each other, there was like a huge connection, like you looking at my eyes, like where I was just like, well, and I was feeling the same feelings that she had, but I was very confused. Not, I mean, she was confused on another level of like, whoa, this is a girl. Right. I was confused on like, damn, but I thought I was going to be single for
a good minute.
And this is just, I was not prepared for this, but I couldn't go against my gut and my heart. And like something was just telling me like, yes, to just go with the flow and like follow your heart. And so we get to the end of the event, and of course we were inseparable. And I remember when we exchanged numbers, you invited me because it was your birthday. A couple of days after, you invited me to you had like a surf thing because you surfed, which I thought was also like another like sexy, like really cool component. Like you skateboard, you surf, like that's really, really dope. And you invited me to it. I'm like, I think she really likes me. But I wasn't sure because you said she had a kid. I'm like, maybe she's a single mom, that's gay, or maybe she is married. But I think you said single mom at some point.
When I introduced myself.
Yeah. You made sure you're like, I will say I'm a mom. I'm gonna say I'm
single parent.
But you're like, you're gonna call me, right? You're gonna tell me, because that night we were supposed to meet up and do like hang out and stuff like that. And you're like, we're gonna hang out. But you're basically saying we're gonna hang out and make sure not to forget about me.
And I was just so sure that we were gonna meet each other again, because this was in Vegas. She lived in Hollywood at the time. I lived in Long Beach. I just knew, like, in my heart, I was so confident. I even drove back. I dropped her off at the airport because she flew back. I drive back and I'm just like, oh my God, like, butterflies and everything's like super nice. And I had never felt this and allowed myself to feel it. I think that's the biggest key to all this, is that for a long time I was suppressing those emotions because I was just independent Steph who can do it all and work and be there for Alex, my son, and not give myself this opportunity, right, to share life with somebody on a deeper level. So it was just nice for me to enjoy, like, allowing myself to feel that feeling. And the whole drive back, I was just like, really grateful for it. After that, I mean, we kept hanging out and dated, and
Whoa, 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 whoa!
yeah, I'll let her.
You're going too fast, because, and this is why I think even that first night, like, it can be we can just cover a whole episodes, because there's so many things that occurred that weekend. First off, so because that's the drive back from the event to the hotel. I was going to stay there one more night. The following day was like a development tour. You weren't even planning to go.
No.
I wanted to go because I hadn't seen a project of that size. It was like 300 plus units.
Right.
And Kaylani, of course, persistent as she is, was like, come through. So I was like, fine. I want to check it out anyways. And it aligned with my flight. So we went our separate ways, but we stayed in touch. You sent me videos of my golf swing. I sent you videos of mine. But I was just thinking, I was just like, damn, I feel like I just met my soulmate. I felt like I just met the love of my life. But this is weird because I'm still married. Like, like I was tripping out because I was like, no, is this supposed to happen? It's too soon. But like the same visions that she talked about, like I had visions of us having a family, like traveling, like you said, like just building a life together. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening? I was literally like, and then that same night, I was low-key nervous to meet up with you. And I think we're coordinating, and
you were so nervous.
I was super nervous, but Kaylani was supposed to, we were supposed to go to the Strip because the hotel was in Summerlin, which is like half an hour outside of the Strip. And she was like, yeah, we're going to go to the Strip. We're going to go to this bar or club. You were staying at the Strip. So we were just going to meet up. But then Kaylani switched up plans. She's like, we're just going to stay at the hotel. They have a bowling alley. And then I remember being like, oh, Kaylani said this. And I remember you text. We were just texting back and forth because you're very that follow-up game.
When you've been in real estate that long, you just comes automatically.
But I remember you were like, I was like, yeah, Kaylani said, Kaylani isn't going to go here. She wants to meet up here. And she's like, well, are you going to go with her? And I was like, ooh. Fighting words. Are you going to meet up with her?
That should have been her first red flag.
Yeah,
like, here we are.
Red flag number 1. Toxica Mexicana right there.
I'm a heel toxica is what I can tell her.
So I was like, ooh, I felt that. I felt the spiciness in that. And I was like, I'm like, there's always a time that I can hang out. I'm like, and I've already hung out with most of those people anyways throughout the day. I was like, let me go out to the Strip.
Oh my God.
So I told Kelly, I'm like, I'm gonna go to the Strip. I'm gonna meet up with some people. I didn't say like Stephanie because I didn't know what to think. I was just like confused. I'm like, so we meet up, and this whole time I'm like, she's with her friend who she barely knows. It's a friend, but it's like friend of I don't even know.
Yeah,
but
friend
I'm like,
that I met at one of my events.
I was like, do they want to do a threesome? Like, I'm like, I honestly was not.
I was not down. I mean, maybe if it would have been like a really hot girl, but I didn't even know I was into girls. So no, that was not part of the plan.
Yeah. But let's talk about when we locked eyes, like when we're trying to meet. Like I can tell you look so worried because it took us a while to meet up, to meet at the same spot. And I remember like you looked so worried, like you were.
I was just looking around because I didn't want you waiting. So one of the things I hate, one of my pet peeves, which I've learned to deal with and live
especially with me,
is people who aren't punctual. And that goes for dates. Like I even would stop talking to friends in high school when we were supposed to go to like a flyer party and they wouldn't show up on time. That's just how I am. I just show up an hour early. You tell me 10 and I'm there at 9.
Bruh.
She'll tell you.
See, I'm
And
like
then when I
right in
became a
between.
mom, it became even worse. It's like an hour and a half before. It's just ridiculous. Why am I like this? I don't know. But I was worried. I don't like people feeling that. So I was supposed to meet up with her. And I was like, oh, she's going to be waiting for me. So I'm like looking around. I'm like, I don't want her waiting. It
But
was
then
just
when
my
you saw
anxiety.
me,
Then I saw her and I just felt like this instant relief. Like, okay, she showed up. She's here. And now we're about to just hang out all night.
yeah, and we just drank. It was really fun.
We were
So it was
drinking at the
three of us.
time.
We had a third wheel, so it's
Yeah.
not like it was just like a date or anything like
Right.
that. We walked around Vegas, went to this really cool sky bar, and that is when we found out where it got really real, because we connected through going to the bathroom together.
That was actually cool.
We go pee. I'm sorry, but I drink a lot of water, so I always have to go to the bathroom. And same for her. And I was like,
it was
oh my
new
God,
for
this
me.
is
I was
awesome.
like, oh, I like her, and we get to have like little bathroom breaks. You know, it was like the best. I was like, I've never done this before.
But we can also talk about like leaving. We've gone through enough. This is like our third bathroom break. We're heading back to the bar, and then you just turn to me. What do you say?
I was like, do you feel a connection or not? And that was just transparent stuff. Like, I'm very direct sometimes. I think even the text didn't mean to come across like that, but
I know you.
I can be very direct.
No,
I'm very black and white. Like, is this a thing or no? And that's kind of what I told her as soon as we came back from the bathroom, because I felt the instant high in the bathroom. Right? I don't know if we kissed or not, but we were
not
just
yet.
no, we hadn't kissed yet. Yeah. So I already felt that instant high in the bathroom
like,
of us just bonding together and like hanging out. So I come back and we've been flirting all day. Yeah. At that point, it's like all day. Up. So I needed reassurance.
Otherwise, I gotta go to bed.
I was like, otherwise, I need to go to bed. I got shit to do tomorrow. I got to drive back. Like, let me just cut it here.
And what did I say?
You said yes.
I said yes.
I was like, okay.
Like, yes,
all right, cool. So we taking another 2 hours.
Back, I'm like, oh my God, what just happened?
Yeah.
It just got real. And then it's like, it was just a high. I felt like the rest of the night, but I remember asking you, so have you been with other girls? And when you told me no. I was like,
and you've been making all the moves.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was super nervous. I'm not that kind. See, I came off like people think I'm a player. I'm really not. I'm super quiet introvert. I flirt though. I will flirt like till the end of it, but making the move and everything is.
Yeah, I'm a big time action taker with everything that I do. So
but I am an action taker.
Yeah, you are, but it takes you a little bit of time to warm up to it. With me, I'm very like yesterday, I dyed my hair. I was laying on the couch, and what I do? I was 5 minutes. I was like, I'm going to CVS. I'll be back.
Nervous. I think I was like off my game, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I knew it was unexpected, and I think me, having a kid and me being me, you were probably like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what happened after that?
You were over your friend tagging along.
I really was.
We were just ready to just have our time together. You were hungry. We finally ate. I saw some other flags of like as we call the possum.
Hangry.
That's Steph's like angry, not even angry, but just when she's not feeling it. I call her.
And that was the second red flag, but she chose to overlook it. And we'll talk about.
I took care of it.
We'll talk about the possumness.
Yeah,
in another episode.
But we finally got rid of her friend. God bless her. And she finally got the hint, and she did not want to leave. It's like I don't know if she knew or she just had no idea, or maybe she was too tipsy. So we walk back and we're just like, all right, what do you want to do? I'm like, oh, let's go back to your hotel and like have another drink. We've been drinking all day. I never drink like that. You never drink.
Me neither. Or stay up like that.
Yeah. And I was exhausted. I think it was like 2 or 3 a.m. That's like way past my bedtime, which is usually 9. So we had drinks, and then that's when we really got the chance to get to know each other. And I think that's what attracted us even more, or connected us more to each other, is like being vulnerable, sharing about our story. You talked about like your family and like the challenges there. I talked about my family. I talked about being married, and like we were very transparent from the beginning, which was a green flag, I think, for both of us. talking about Alex. So it was a really beautiful conversation. I was just exhausted. I was honestly hitting like E, and what happened next? I was like, okay, we're tired.
And then we went to the room.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, well, do you want to just sleep with me? Like, she was 30 minutes out almost.
Yeah, I would have had to take an Uber.
And it's 3 a.m. We go to bed at 9. So
and we
were
have an
way
event
past
at 10 a.m. or something.
And we had an
9 a.m.
event for the
Or not event,
development
but, like,
the next day. So I was like, hey, do you want to just sleep with me? She was like, yeah. So I bring her in the room with me and my awkward friends laying there, and she's like snoring loud. and then I made it so uncomfortable for her too. I just gave her one of my PJs, and then I just laid there, and that was it. She left early in the morning, and then the next day I had a shit ton of anxiety.
Nothing happened.
Nothing happened that day.
I mean, we were like snuggling.
That was it.
And that's where we had our kiss too.
Right. We did. That was our first kiss.
First kiss, tired kiss. I was so exhausted. Dead. I was so dead. Mm-hmm. But it was also, I felt uncomfortable. I was so exhausted. I felt uncomfortable.
My friend's like laying there.
But at the same time, I'm glad it happened the way it did, because I wouldn't have wanted to do anything else besides kiss, because I feel like that would have thrown us off even more.
Right.
But yeah, like I think I only slept like 3 hours, and I was like, okay, I gotta get up. I don't want to be here when she wakes up, when like her friend wakes up.
So she did that walk of shame.
I did walk of shame. I put my shit back on. I got out. I couldn't lock the door. It took me forever. I'm like, I finally headed back to my hotel and got ready for the development meet. And you had I
had my own little episode, and I say we were drinking at the time because now we are living sober. Yeah, but at that time we were drinking a lot, or we drank a lot that day, and I had really, really bad anxiety that Sunday morning before the development project walk tour. And I just sat in my car. I think the tour was going to start at 10. I got there at 9. Once again, typical Steph. Mm-hmm. And I was like dying from the night before. And I remember just like sitting in my car crying, like, what just happened? Why am I feeling this? Why do I feel so connected to her? Am I really gay, or am I like going to waste her time? And this is just like a phase for me. So I felt bad about that, right? I was like, I don't want to give her high hopes, and this is just a phase. But I didn't know if it was going to be a phase or not. So it was like my mind just playing tricks on me, like, follow your heart. And then the other part was like, no, bitch, it's a phase. Like, it's a phase. You've never been into women.
Well, like we talk about like your head. Mm-hmm. There's your head and your brain and your mind, mm-hmm. and then there's your heart too.
Right. So it was both, and I think both were like clashing. And then on top of that, I was hungover. I was thinking about my son. I was thinking about myself, her, the whole thing. And I was just like, what just happened? Like, I felt a lot of anxiety. So I cried it out. I was at that time getting much better about healing myself and feeling my feelings. So I let the anxiety do its thing. And then I got up. I could have left, actually. I could have just been like, hey, I don't feel good.
Because you were my ride to the airport.
Yeah.
You drove to Vegas, mm-hmm. you and your friend. And then I think
we decided
the day
to drive.
Before, you're like, oh, I'll take you. Mm-hmm. I'll take you to the airport.
Yeah.
I was like, cool.
I was like, I'll drop her off. And that was the only reason I showed up to that event.
It wasn't the only reason.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was to see you, because I was going to drop you off. Uh-huh. But otherwise, I would have been like, I've seen a lot of development projects. I will drive my ass home right now. Or I would have slept in, at the hotel and left later that day. But things happened the way they did. And so it was very awkward even for us at the development project, because she wasn't really talking to me. She didn't know how to act. And I was like, now I'm really fucking confused, right? Because I was just crying in my car about my feelings for her and the logical side and my heart. And am I really gay or not?
I was low-key going through the same thing, but in a different way, where I'm usually not the type where I need space. But I felt I definitely needed space, because I didn't know how to be like, but did I want people to know either? Like, how do we?
Yeah, but you were to the point where you weren't even talking to me at all.
Yeah,
I was like, you could at least talk and have a casual conversation.
But it's very vague, very straightforward.
No, it was about like 20 people in that group, and she was just always on the side. Like, she was trying to stay away from me. So it really was throwing me off, to the point where towards the end, I was like, I'm not even gonna ask her if I'm still dropping her off or not.
I'm only right up to you,
because it's just fucking awkward at this point. she's not talking to me, and she's like hiding over there. So I'm just gonna just go home. And at that point, Possum Steph was like, "You should have just gone home. I told you." And then it was like around 10:30. She didn't wait until the last hour to ask, "Oh, would you ask me? Like, are you gonna take me, or should I put my stuff in the
yeah,
car?"
no, I think I assumed you were gonna take me.
Right.
I was like, oh, my stuff is in Kaylani's car, and then you're like, well, I guess I am taking her.
Yeah. So then at that point, we just did that, and then drove you to the airport.
Yep, to the airport, and we hugged, we kissed, and you're like, I hope to see you again. Like,
Yeah.
Text me, call me.
Right.
And we hugged, and
that was it.
That was it. I think that's a good place to end.
Yeah.
Because it low key, I think it was going back to like the manifesting your partner. I think it kind of both hit us where it's, and maybe we didn't connect the dots with what we manifest or what we wrote down until later on, till our first official date. Or maybe you had thought about it already, but I think it was just, it hit us so quickly the way it happened. It
wasn't like we saw each other instantly connected and I was like, oh yeah, you're the one I wrote down. Right. It didn't work that way.
It just happened very organically.
It happened very, very organically. And then I would say like, maybe we'll get to that, but like the second or third date is when we're like, you know what? I actually wrote this shit down. So why am I even surprised that we met each other? You're like, I wrote it down too. So yeah, I think the biggest takeaway from this episode, because we should cut it off here, is manifesting and writing down your goals, and especially your ideal partner, because it's so important that your ideal partner is somebody that you're going to enjoy and spend life with and share experiences with, that they support you, and that you guys have a lot of things in alignment together and a lot of shared just commonality in many things, right? I think being super intentional about writing those qualities down will really help you attract a like-minded person, but also doing a lot of that inner work so you can attract somebody that you would want to date and so
you're ready for.
Yeah, and you have to become that person that you'd want to date. And I think for the longest time, the whole time I was single, I was on a journey to like date myself, and I'd want to date myself now. Minus the possum-y vibe, but
I was on a journey to date myself too. It only lasted a couple months.
Yeah, and I think that's okay because that journey is never ending. Like we still do date ourselves to some extent in order for us to be able to show up to each other. And through that, that was like a beautiful way that we met, and we've had our challenges. And although it may seem like we are a perfect couple, I was telling her this yesterday, being in a healthy relationship, which is my first time ever having one, doesn't mean that you're perfect. It's like when people say you're healed, that you're perfect. No, it's an ongoing process of healing and growing together. So I fuck up, she fucks up. There's things that we've had to work through, traumas. And those are a lot of the things that we're sharing in this podcast, not just the story about how we met, right? That's like not interesting, I'm sure, to a lot of you, but I think it's like the subliminal messages in between while we're having these experiences that we're sharing with you guys is we all have our own traumas, and then coming together and really being committed to each other, we got to work through those. And a relationship really helps you mirror that. So that was our first mirror, was manifesting each other.
Yep. So we'll leave it there, as we said. A good telenovela. Next episode, we'll talk about coming back home and facing reality, like our day-to-day world, and how we combine both of them together, and the plans we make together really, really fast, I would say.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you tuning in. If you have any questions, or we want to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and if there's any way that we can answer those, maybe at the end. I kind of like that idea.
We will be answering a couple questions towards the end, I think, starting the next episode, since this was our second one.
Yes.
Would have been third, but yes.
Someone's still better.
Part of the journey. So thank you guys.
But yeah, thank you guys. We'll see you guys next week.